Hey everyone, Zach Kastner here, member of the F-Top team fixing the optical problem and your resident optician. Just giving a quick little blurb before this week's episode. We had a couple of technical difficulties that we just wanted to apologize for during it, but we hope that you guys love this next interview that we did. Hello and welcome to Fixing the Optical Problem, where we are trying to not contribute to the optical problem. I'm Zach Kastner, ABOAC, owner of Sherwood Opticians in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and your resident optician. Joined as ever by Matthew Smith, otherwise known as That Glasses Guy, and owner of That Glasses Guy Optique. Matt, how are we doing today?
I don't even know how I'm doing today. You know, I never check in with myself to answer that question. So I
That's
hope
true.
everyone else is doing great because we've got some awesome stuff coming today.
Yes, and for those in the audience, this is already take two. Take one lasted all of 1 second before we lost our composure. So we'll see how this goes. If this goes out, then you know it didn't take 3 takes. We are joined today, though, by Barry Santini over in New York. He's not an optical shaman like our last guest. I don't know how I would describe you besides someone who just has lots and lots of knowledge and that we all come to.
Yeah, perhaps. I know I got a lot of years. This month is my 50th year in the industry.
Wow.
Oh,
I started in January of 1973.
That's a little bit before I was born, Barry.
Yeah, well, I still feel pretty youthful about it. You know, it was my dad's business, so I learned a lot from him.
Sure. And then I'm assuming you grew your own knowledge base and went from there.
Tried to. What I discovered is a lot of stuff I used to throw out that he would say actually had some resonance the more I learned it.
Fair enough. Well, Barry, you're on for a reason today. But before we get to that, I think we should talk a little bit about your background and who you are. I don't think I could do it justice, so it's probably best just coming from you.
All right, well, an optician. I was trying to be a musician, which my father didn't want me to be. And I went to music school. And when I decided that I also couldn't be a musician, or at least a professional one, I slid back into the idea of maybe becoming an optician like my father. And I've been working at it really since that point. I have a lot of experience in all different facets. I grew up in the age of glass lenses and rimless, drilling rimless in glass, and all sorts of things that I think would be, from a craft standpoint, not only difficult for most people to do today, but that would be difficult for me to do today.
I can't even imagine.
Yeah. So, you know, that's just the way things are. But that's why if somebody asked me to put a rimless together with CR39, it doesn't faze me because I used to do it in glass. Anyway, so I had some experience starting in the 80s with a fledgling binocular and telescope business. And I learned a lot about optics from that experience and some of the people I hobnobbed with, one of which was a person named Al Nagler, who was an optical engineer. And he actually led the team that designed the Apollo, the Gemini, and the lunar landing simulators for NASA. So my optics background in terms of geometric optics, telescope optics, that type of stuff is very strongly grounded. That does not mean I'm equally well grounded in ophthalmic optics. I've tried to walk bridging those two worlds really since that time. They're really two entirely different disciplines. Anyway, so I've been running my own shop. My father passed in the 80s. And basically, I think of what I do out front as a science experiment every day. I'm trying to figure things out, like you guys discussed.
That's
not only the optical standpoint, but also like the business standpoint. You know, how do you make this all work in an ever-changing and evolving market?
That's the truth. You know, I tell clients all the time about, you know, if I hadn't been an optician first and I opened a business, they wouldn't be sitting there today because it's two totally different things.
It is.
It's a good thing that I had a little experience first, that I could do the day-to-day stuff and then try to figure out the back end of the business when no one was around. But so that's what was that, Barry? I'm sorry.
There's not much more to flesh out about my background than that. I mean, you'll see little dribs and drabs come in. Well, look, that background is one of the things that makes me excited about what I think are new technical advances in ophthalmic optics. And so that's what I bring to the table today.
Yeah, because I mean, in 50 years, you've seen probably a little bit of every kind of advancement there is. Progressives developed in that time as well, right? So you've really seen.
I've seen a lot. I've seen panelless edging, right?
Oh my goodness, something that I take for granted every day.
Oh,
Take that for granted.
Oh wait, you stay here.
As I've got, Barry just walked away for those of us who are listening. I've got 12 jobs waiting for me when I get back to the office to cut still. I've already cut 7, I think. So I've got a busy day with my patternless edger. So
my father had metal patterns.
Oh, wow.
That's
how cool.
the Orbal. That's the rimless one, right? And here's the B51 from Bausch & Lomb. And then not only did you have those things, but you don't see these that often. Every shape and size had a sizing ring. Here's how you sized them. You sized them by pinching this eye wire together. Okay.
That's really cool.
If they fit this perfectly, I'm trying to get it in here. Yeah.
See,
if they fit this perfectly, it would fit the frame perfectly. Those products made between, as Moss Lippow says, but made between World War I and World War II were the highest quality mass production consumer goods that were ever made. Right? They were made because they made them as good as they could be, as opposed to as good as they needed to be.
Makes sense.
Wouldn't that be a nice thing to bring to the modern era?
Well,
making things as good as they could be.
It looks like this. It's JMM.
We can talk about JMM another day, but I think we've got you on for lenses today. You know, our last guest, we got off topic quite a bit. We're gonna try to focus a little today, only a little. I know. And Scott, I know you're listening, and we appreciate all your tangents. So that was not a criticism, just a comment.
Okay, good.
One last thing about your background that you have neglected to mention, Barry, you're an ABOM, are you not?
Yes.
So you do know a thing or two about optics, just for people in the audience.
The ABOM at the time I took it was what we now call the advanced exam, or the ABOAC, and then you had to write a paper of at least 10,000 words. Today, in order to encourage more people, they split the exam out for the ABOAC, because a lot of people aren't, like, and including me at the time, not the best writers. And now if you do some publishing, or you write an article for the magazine, or you write a couple of things, or a CE, or you give a CE, that's considered a legitimate tender toward the ABOM, which honestly I'm fine with. But what it also does is it doesn't let the individual viewpoint of a person have to be congealed and expressed.
Sure, which is the route that I'm going to have to go at some point. I've got a little time yet before I'm even allowed to apply for the ABOM. So I'm saying that I've got extra time, but I'm really just stalling.
Well, I'm just to let you know, I've signed up for the Advanced Ophthalmic Society. Is that what it's called? From Australia?
I'm not familiar.
AOS? Yeah, they have a really steep certification path that I've looked at it, and it's 10 times tougher than anything in the ABO. And I'm starting that in February. It's 11 weeks, and the seminars are at 7 o'clock Australian time, which means I have to be up at 3 a.m. once a week to take those webinars. But I'm going to do it because it's the challenge. It's the challenge lying ahead.
Good for you, Barry. Good for you. I'm glad you're doing it, because I will not be up at what would be 2 a.m. my time.
I love a good challenge, but challenges that happen after 9 a.m.
Well, remember, it's a challenge. I didn't say I'd pass it. We're going to find out.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So, Barry, you're on today to talk a little bit about some new technology coming out of Zeiss. Is that correct?
Yes. This is the Zeiss Clearview category of lenses. It is their single vision. It's their umbrella term for all their new single vision. It is a term that will be used at once for their finished single vision, and it will be used for their surface, anything you make at the lab. So the entire category of single vision is now being renamed Clearview.
Okay.
And the only thing that lies outside of Clearview per se is individual single vision.
Okay, so they're one of their freeform styles.
Right. Like one of their top freeform style.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So what you might have called single vision 3D, that's now Clearview at the lab.
Got it.
Yeah.
And what significant changes have they made to basically update their technology, right? They're not just releasing something from marketing standpoint, I'm hoping they're bringing new tech to the table that's going to aid us as ECPs and aid our consumers too in better vision.
They say they're bringing single vision technology that has significantly better optics than the majority of lenses that have been out there. And that includes all the spherical single vision and most of the aspheric single vision and a little bit of the atoric single vision.
Okay.
And they're also presenting it with a cosmetic bent where the lenses are flatter and particularly in plus noticeably thinner. So they figure all your single vision lenses have just got an upgrade because now you get the benefits of improved optical performance, particularly off axis. You get flatter lenses that are cosmetically more appealing. And well, not to be a commercial, because I don't know what the answer to this is. There's no upcharge for this.
So they're keeping their pricing essentially the same or effectively the same.
It's not, and I don't know the pricing, but it's essentially the same.
Okay, because I do work with Zeiss currently. They're one of my lens manufacturers. So I haven't heard too much from my rep just yet, not calling him out or anything. I think he's great. But this is very new to me. So
they're just rolling it out now. It's going to be CR39 as a concession to the U.S. market, polycarbonate. They're focusing on 1.6, which I agree all of us should be. There will be Trivex, there will be 1.67, and there will be 1.74.
Now that's new for Zeiss because Zeiss typically doesn't do a lot in 1.6.
1.6 is the featured material.
I like
As
hearing
it
that.
should be.
I agree. 1.6 is great.
So just for giggles, I had a guy come in from Greenwich, Connecticut, which is a bit of a distance to come to Long Island. He buys a Cami Mannon frame from me for $800. And he wears spherical lenses, a -1.25, -2.25, but he wants really good stuff. So I said, I'm going to fit you with the new Zeiss Clearview, not knowing how long it would take me to get it or whatever. And I order them at 4:45 p.m. Friday, and I get the lenses Monday morning.
Well, that's pretty good.
Yeah, they have a working stock, and they're trying to do it very quickly. I finished the edging job on Monday, and then I texted him. I said, they're done. You want me to ship them?
Well, I will be interested to hear on a follow-up on how those performed for him and what he thinks.
Well, I don't expect on a 42 millimeter round frame we're going to hear oohs and ahs. I will tell you that whatever his last optician in Portland fitted him with was poor in terms of AR reflection, and the new ones are actually less reflective on Duravision Platinum than the previous. So they're really quite invisible.
Good. Okay. And so these are then cast lenses as well, correct? It's not necessarily
these are molded lenses. That's correct. Okay. They're molded, but the secret is that they are, and this is the confusing point, is that they are creating a free-form single vision, right? And I see your smirk. I see your smirk.
What can I say? I wear it on my, I can't hide things. I wear it on my sleeve. I wear it on my face.
So, you know what? Let me pull up one slide that helps explain this as easy as possible. How's that?
That's perfect. Because it's not just benefiting Matt and I, although Matt's quiet today. Again.
Yeah, we're gonna go here, and then I'm gonna pull it up, and then I've got to go get the slide. So hold on.
For those on audio, now would be a great time to switch over to the YouTube channel just so you can take a peek at this. And then don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, leave comments, leave reviews. I don't even care if they're bad at this point. Just say something. We want to hear from you.
This is what happens when you're old, is that you don't get a terrific memory. Let's look at this slide for a second. Can you see this?
Yeah.
All right, so they decided that not only are they going to look at it from an optical standpoint in terms of theory, they're going to use a vision clarity simulation to say what kind of target vision subjectively will somebody get. And so their target is best clear vision, that's unblurred, as sharp as it can reasonably be. Then they also define something called just noticeable blur, and look, it hovers around a quarter diopter. That's where you first notice that there are changes in the acuity. Then there's just troublesome blur. I like this term. This is when a person starts to notice that, hey, this is bothering me. There's a difference between first noticing something and actually being bothered by it. And then there's objectionable, which is I'm not dealing with this. So if you look at those 3 dioptric categories, that matches the complaints I get at the desk very succinctly. When a person's ad for progressives is a half diopter off, they are complaining. And if it's 3/4 of a diopter off and they're myopic, they're taking their glasses off.
I really like this: the noticeable blur, troublesome blur, objectionable blur.
They've used a metric to gauge how clear the vision is for the lenses. And I'm looking for a slide. Forgive me while oh, no, that's not it. Okay. I have to go. Oh, here it is. That's it. Let's look at this slide. All right, so you got standard single vision on the left-hand side. There's one parameter, the spherical curve you get to play with in order to get the optical goal. The second one is aspheric single vision. You got about 5 parameters, meaning 5 points on the lens that you define the slope of the curve, right? And those are the 5 working parameters. They call it double aspheric. That you could also call atoric. So now you got a cylindrical prescription. Technically, by corrective curve or Scherning's ellipse, you need 2 individual cross curves in order to make both of those powers perfect. But if you're working with a spherical lens, all you can do, front surface, I should say, all you can do is manipulate the backside. And so they're saying you have essentially 9 parameters that you're working with because the one common dot in the middle is shared between the 2 axes. But the key is the area between those 2 axes. The question is, what's going on there? So I'm going to ask you, Zach, what's going on there?
What's going on there? Am I getting interviewed now? What's going on? I'm asking
because this is the crux of the difference. The last thing is Zeiss has mapped that transition area, that blend area between the 2 axes using their freeform metrics in order to create a surface that meets their design goals for subjective blur.
Yeah, because between those 2 axes is typically where errors pop up, right? That's when someone who has higher cylinder power, they get that off gaze blur. It's not essentially is what's going on.
So it's not just let's grade these 2 areas together. And I'm not inferring what's been done, but by the way, all their performance claims, to be fair, I want to be fair, all their performance claims about what this lens does is done against their product in these categories.
Sure.
All right. So I think that's a fair thing to look at.
Yeah, they're competing with themselves. They're not trying to pull some bottom of the barrel lens out and make it happen that way. Oh, there we go. I think we lost Matt there for a minute, but here he is.
I'm back.
I had a giant blue screen pop up, but let me tell you, now I know this keeps recording after that happens, so that's good. We didn't lose anything except for me, and I'm quiet anyway. Nobody wants to listen.
Look, I'm not being paid by Zeiss for this. I am presenting this, which is why I have the slide deck locally to New York Opticians in 2 weeks. And they gave me permission to talk about this here with you guys in an effort to basically see if you critics would have questions about it that I can help, answer, and then the audience would learn something from it as well.
Yeah,
which is what we're here for.
It is. It's to criticize. That's all we're here for, is being critical. No.
Especially me.
Yes, especially you. I would say my biggest question is, what are they doing different that's creating a freeform surface on the backside?
Exactly that. They've carefully mapped that transition area using their metric of clear vision.
But they're still
It's not
casting
just
the lens.
blended. So the question is, how do you, meaning me or anybody, know what the optical performance of any of those finished lenses are, right?
Yeah.
All we do is use 20 happy, the term I love that Scott hates. Hey, am I getting complaints? Why should I spend more money? Why should I do different things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
that's fair.
This is a reason to move into this technology. Is not only is it optically better, but it's cosmetically better. If you've read my papers on the war between optics and cosmetics, you know that optics is almost always losing the cosmetics. Here we have a chance to have flatter, more attractive lenses that fit frames better and not only keep the optical performance, but surpass it from what you're using. And it's meant to be a bridge, right, between finished lenses and surface. The freeform surface is still going to be the gold standard because you can personalize it, etc. But this is a way of basically taking your regular single vision and giving it an upgrade. And there's no reason that you can't do it because it doesn't cost you a lot more money if you're using good lenses.
So this, I know you mentioned earlier the old Zeiss 3D SV. So this would be more like your sort of a freeform single vision lens calculation based on the default calculation. So the standardized, whatever they determine their standardized panoscopic tilt, vertex,
so
all that
interestingly,
is.
and this is a point that needs to be a little more clarified, they would still expect you to fit this with Martin's rule.
Okay.
Interesting.
And-
okay.
Okay.
Which I guess would make sense for a
I've run
cast
into
lens,
Now,
right?
to be fair, this information is a little fluid because I've been asking questions, other people that I know who are knowledgeable at Zeiss are asking questions, and we're trying to make sure we hone the edges of this technically for the most astute people like yourselves and the audience, so that we're not misleading people or saying things that are improper. But I mean, look, finished lenses, as Zeiss shows you, are such a large portion of the lens market in single vision, but it's the area we treat with the most disdain.
Yep.
Right?
Barry was talking to Matt, calling him astute there for the audience. He was not talking to me. Remember, resident optician.
Okay.
You know. So I guess, yes, that was my biggest question, which you essentially just answered there is it default measurements? How are they basically coming up with these free-form backside, essentially, that they're casting then? So it's not being generated, it's being cast. It's
cast, and the molds are measured, and the subsequent casted lenses are all using Zeiss's worldwide known metrology, good to 1.5 microns. But then in addition, they're using their own proprietary metrics with that vision clarity simulator to make sure that these lenses are providing the degree of visual satisfaction, we'll call it. In other words, that I think I see really clear with them, as opposed to this has zero astigmatism, right? They're basically taking the power error and the astigmatism error, and they're creating an RMS value out of it, which, you know, IoT loves to do. It's the basis of their latest stuff, right? And saying that we've got this pretty much honed down within a 50 millimeter lens size around the center. That's the qualifier. It's all these performance factors are to 50 millimeters of the lens blend.
To 50
millimeters.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's a pretty good lens size. It's a pretty good lens size. Now, as you get into more astigmatic corrections, that's where there's a divorce between what those stock lenses can do and what these lenses and real freeform can do. And so this is where the claim for up to 3 times better with wider vision comes from. It's because it's related to the astigmatic prescriptions.
I'm going to say, Barry, that it drives me crazy anytime someone says 3 times better or 30% better or anything like that.
Right.
So I'm going to reserve judgment until I've seen it in action a little bit, because that is like my hot button, just like irritation.
Well, I don't want to make it a commercial, but within the slide deck and within the presentations you'll subsequently see in the white papers, they outline the basis for making these claims. And I look at it and I'm fine with that based on exactly how they present it. You may decide, I don't like the framework you're you're using to find that, but that's a different story.
I'm gonna stop talking for a minute and give Matt a chance if he wants,
Yes,
because I
Matt.
have a few more follow-up questions.
I don't have any follow-up questions. I'm just trying to wrap my head around it. That's what I do. I sit here and I absorb, and then I throw something in that makes everybody go, where the hell did that come from?
Yeah, we
Right.
know.
Let's take a look at the only lenses I've handled that -1 1/4 and -2 1/4. They were done in the 1.6 version with
Okay.
Vision Platinum, and I clocked the curves. The 1 1/4 was a 275 true curve, and the 2 1/4 was a 250 true curve on 1.6.
That's very flat for stock.
That is flat.
So in some cases, in plus, between the flattening of the curve, you can have a reduction in thickness for a finished lens of that diameter of up to 50%. I
Right, and
have,
for those that are listening that maybe don't know this already, single vision lenses already run thinner when they're stock versus a surface freeform in most cases. Now, sometimes we can push the lab a little bit and get that really thin surface.
I've
But
got,
in general,
I've got one
you're
good
gonna
picture here I'm going to share.
okay, cool. But yeah, in general, you'll see that a stock lens will be a little bit thinner than a true finished freeform, even if the optics aren't quite as.
So take a look at the
Correct.
top in +4.
Looks
Yeah, that's
good.
pretty solid for a moderate plus.
That's
very
pretty
solid.
impressive. That's impressive by any measure. Now, even in the -8, you don't see as much of that difference because of the sagittal differences between the two classes of lenses, but it's still extremely impressive. This is really the first series of lenses that's been brought to the market finished and now also surfaced, which is why it's a global renaming, which has these cosmetic advantages without the optical disadvantage.
So this is kind of an idea of trying to bring the two worlds closer together, right? The quick
Yes.
turn, ready to go stocks versus the 3 or 4 day processing for the lab finished, but at a higher grade than just the standard sphericals out there.
And you can keep a stock of them in your office, if you're an edging place like I am. So if you gotta deliver fast service, you can do fast service with basically unparalleled optics until you get to having to have to surface it. I mean, I've been a big fan of freeform single vision for years, and I would often use the lens in order to get the curve I wanted for the cosmetics and the frame fit, right? But now I may not have to do that so much. Boo-hoo for me.
Yeah, because I know there's a lot of brands out there that have super flat frames. And I mean, you can't throw a 4 or 6 base stock in a frame that's effectively a 2 base, at least not without making it awful.
Well, it depends. I mean, that's another lecture, which honestly, I think that although I think I have pretty good chops with that, I suspect that Scott has better chops.
Allegedly. Maybe we'll bring you both on and you guys can argue about it. Matt and I will just walk away. We'll just let you run.
He will not tolerate me, so we'll have to see.
We'll see. We'll see what comes out on this on social media after the fact. So I have 2 quick follow-up questions regarding these lenses.
Okay.
One, what is release date?
Now,
They're already available.
not in every material. Not in every material. This is where, not being a Zeiss employee, I don't know firsthand. I just serendipitously discovered that the 1.6 are instantly available because that is their featured material. If you think about it, everybody complains about Abby. Why not use one of the most Abby friendly materials that you can, that's going to also give you good optics?
Absolutely. And then do we know what parameters, especially on the stock vision, like the stock lenses is?
The range?
Because yeah, so what it's available in, because if it's only available into a +2 sill, that's not
I don't
that much
know.
of a boon. Okay, fair enough. You're allowed to say you don't know. I
know.
appreciate that.
I don't know.
Okay.
I've been trying to work out just getting the high points of this presentation out. And, and I had trouble, I have to confess to you, I had trouble understanding what they were bringing to the table a lot until I realized that in the Zeiss presentation, the area they call the blend area, I call the transition area between the 2 principal spherocylindrical meridians. And that's the no man's zone that we've just accepted but never questioned. And if we use the metric of if my patient's complaining, we're going to get nowhere.
Yes, because they're not going to detect that. Even I can take a lens.
20
and look at
happy
this far corner.
is what makes people get used to glasses. What's make people, if they have a small change in the fluidity of their vision between exams, tolerate it. But it also masks for us finding out what is the best solution, which is why whatever the best you want to define it, that's why the biggest complainer, the person who is finicky, who can never be pleased, that's my challenge. I'll do whatever's necessary to figure that out, including changing their prescription by a 16th of a diopter.
We've talked about that.
Yeah.
We talked about that a few, maybe a month or two ago now.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm well aware. Matt, I'm currently digesting this information. You got to tag in for me one more time here, buddy.
No, there's a lot to digest here.
So
I will say,
so question on this would be, and Scott talked about this on your podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So would you really want this to be the same price as the lenses they're replacing? I mean, you could leave it the same price, but I think the public's perception is better if it hierarchically has a little more cost associated with it, depending on what you're using, of course.
Oh, for sure. In the US, we've talked about that recently with Rodenstock, right? You can't bring this product to the market and say, hey, this is so much better. We've put all this extra research into it. Here's our newest, highest tech thing. And you're getting it for the same price as the old one. I will say right now, that's a little bit more of a possibility just because everyone's trying to bring more value for the dollar while the whole economic situation is whatever it is. But in general, the perception of a higher quality item is going to come with a higher quality price.
Well, keep in mind that IoT does that, though. IoT does not charge extra when they release new technology levels. When DRP2 came out, they didn't increase their prices.
Right. That's true. That's true.
So I think it's a business to business thing. And us working with consumers rather than business to business, potentially, yes, I can understand where you're coming from, Barry, that there's that increase in cost. But in my market, there's sometimes trust that's built that's basically saying, here's the newest level of technology. There's no increase in cost with it. We've just replaced the old with what's better for you. Because that's kind of what I've been doing with my clients.
And that would be resonant with the way Zeiss is presenting this and asking people who might otherwise say, well, I'm not interested. And they would say, why? What's your risk?
Sure.
Right. Another thing about this is I don't think you're going to get a lot of people that you transition into this product that are going to say, wow, they're going to put it on and they're going to go, wow. I think the more insidious thing, the thing we really need is the whoa. When someone else fits them with technology back down to the regular tier. Now that my customers, the ones that come back to me and they go, I didn't realize how good your stuff was until my friend said I have to go, or I should try this person or that person. Because I actually don't present tiered product in my store. I just sell them what the best thing is, right? This is it. If you want to trade down from that, I'll show you what you're doing. But for the most part, I try to keep my prices fair like you do and try to offer the best thing so that my metric has always been when they walk out of my store with a new pair of glasses and the most critical opticians on earth encountered them and said, let me see them. I want them to say, you got good stuff. Not that the customer thinks they're good, that the most critical people that are knowledgeable would say, good workmanship, good fit, good everything. And do I do that all the time? No.
But at least you try. Hey, you aspire to do that all the time. We all make mistakes, right?
Oh, sometimes intentional.
As your resident optician, let me tell you, I sometimes make mistakes.
Oh,
Matt, on the other hand, Matt's perfect.
Oh, I'm far from perfect. I present perfectly.
I'm pretty bad with that. My partner says that you know, he just can't believe how many mistakes I make. Most of my mistakes, by the way, are arithmetic. I decide I want to make the height 2 millimeters different, and I go the wrong direction.
Uh-oh. That's never good.
Right.
That's a favorite.
You know, Or he calls me sometimes Dr. Royston Tenoff because I'm measuring the height and somehow I lost 10 millimeters on it and didn't realize.
Oh, that's a favorite one.
Yep. Or 5 millimeters off. I've done that looking at
That's
a
Dr. Royston 5 off.
Yeah, there you go. I can take that one. Too funny. Well, maybe off camera, Barry, we won't put you on the spot here. We'll have to talk about what your remake rate is.
My remake rate has been high. You want to know? It vacillates between 20 and 25%.
Wow.
Because
that's much more than I was anticipating.
Because it isn't just optics. They're unhappy with the fashion. They don't like the fit. Their family didn't like it. Whatever it takes. When you come into my store, I'm basically underpinning total eyewear satisfaction. Right? Like a woman that I carefully just worked with the other day with her monovision contacts. I set her up with a Plano and a plus 75 so she could see the computer. I said, show me where your computer is. Right? She came in to pick them up. I demonstrated, goes, man, these are great. I can't believe how good they are. I got an email today, 3 days later. They're not working. I'm 3 feet from the computer.
Oh no!
Measurement issues.
So what are you going to do?
You fix it. That's what you do.
A precise, factual source of information. Sometimes you have to outguess these people.
Yeah, and you fix it. That's what you do. So that's why we do remakes.
Helping me, and when they don't help me, or I decide that they shouldn't help me, I'll just pay for it. And the way I say that is that
it's the idiot tax.
Well.
That's what I call it. I sometimes pay the idiot tax.
You pay for education if you went to school like me. Your education doesn't stop throughout your career. Be willing to pay for it. If you want to experiment with somebody, let's do it. Right?
100%.
That's it. Let's see if this works. Hey, I figured out that endless steady lenses are really, really useful for the majority of people because they combine the best aspects of a soft lens with the acuity of a hard lens designed in progressives. So it's now one of my favorite go-to designs.
Barry, it's a great thing that you're kind of bringing this up, not the endless steady, but how you do your own education, because that's been my biggest complaint with the optical field. We've had a conversation that you don't like it called that, but basically being an optician is a lot of it is self-education. It's mostly the education that we get is marketing that comes at us, but we have to be the ones that sift through it and decide what works and what doesn't. There's only so much publishing.
In any challenge you're faced outside, there are so many moving parts. You mentioned this in a previous podcast. That's what was very resonant to me. There are so many moving parts that if you're really doing that well, you are truly a master at sorting that stuff out. And sometimes a patient, a wearer will say something to me and I unduly focus on it. And I paint that. They come back to pick it up and they go, well, yeah, that's great. Then they come back 3 days later. This is awful over here. Well, no, I'm not going to wear it for that. Let me tell you, let's have some fun a second.
Have we not been having fun?
A first-generation Italian comes into my store and says, yeah, I have a new prescription. Okay? I'm not making fun. This is the way they speak. Right?
Yep.
What do you want? I want a reading glass. Okay, I see he's got distance prescription mild. He's got a reading prescription that's mild. I said, a little bit stronger. So I make up. And he comes in to put them on, and he looks, I give him a reading card, and he looks up, and he goes, these are no good. I said, no, look at the reading card. He looks up, and he goes, I cannot see. I said, no, these are reading glasses. You want to read. You don't want to drive with them. Oh, no, I want to read in the sun.
Yep. Oh,
and,
man, I remember
I'll
getting
take
that
these
a
back,
lot.
and we're going to go fix them.
Right. So you just go with the flow. I mean, I give out refunds easily. No problem. The truth with refunds is he is really unhappy and they want to be restyled or whatever. Never fight it. Never fight it. Just say, yes, no problem. Let's do it. And if you do that and you take resistance off the table, they will be a more compliant player. But if you say, no, you had these for 6 months, you've been wearing them, that's a long period of time, your vision could have changed, this and that, the first thing they do is dig in their heels. And then whatever the cost of those glasses are, if you get a bad review online, you would have paid 3 times your cost for those glasses to not have that review, right? So
True.
my friends say, well, what if you ended up giving refunds and restyling to everybody? I said, well, if that was the case, there would be a problem with your public. It'd be a problem with you.
That is true. That's very
Right?
true.
So you play the odds.
I think it's always best to look internally rather than externally when you're having problems. You can't blame the client who's not an expert in the field. You gotta look at yourself and how do you fix it. That's how I do it.
So look, the public recognizes a lot of names today. They're very aware of optical products. They know good quality products like Shamir. They know Verilux. They know,
You said good quality.
yeah, well,
And Verilux.
it's not a bad lens.
It was a very adaptable lens, and
It's
they
a
do
lens that I'll
still
tell
hold
you,
the golden standard
it's a
as one of the
dilemma.
most wearable.
It's a dilemma because you look at what it is on paper and you say, why would this work? And yet it does.
Which lens are we referencing specifically
X.
here?
X.
We're gonna have to have a whole nother podcast about this.
Okay, fine.
That we ain't doing that today. We're talking Zeiss today. Hang on.
Yes.
I'm not gonna get my Zeiss check in the mail now since we've talked on off topic so much.
Well, let's return it to Zeiss. You know, what I was trying to do by bringing up those various names is no name, when recognized by the public, has as much strength and power in optics as the Zeiss name, right? So I have Zeiss brochures on the table and they go, oh, they'll say Zeiss, they'll say Zeiss, they'll mispronounce it or I'll mispronounce it, whatever it is, but they know it stands for quality. So that's another reason to consider this, because the public knows what Zeiss stands for.
And I think that's what we're doing today on this podcast is we're not necessarily, or YouTube video, wherever you're consuming this media today, is we're not necessarily saying that you need to go out and switch and open up a Zeiss account and start buying exclusively their product. Right. But you should be shopping around. And I think that's something that as ECPs, we sometimes forget to do. We sometimes get too comfortable, but you should be trying other products and seeing if it's better for your market or just better for you and how you fit as a dispenser. So you can't just get locked into only fitting one thing and hoping that it works for everyone.
Well,
that's right. And it's like the one customer that just comes back every year. I just want the same thing I've been wearing. Well, you're not going to want them to do that. Why would you do that with the products you're offering?
True.
To change, because everything they do is managing risk control, right? If they don't enthusiastically want to be an early adopter, and it comes up like, well, what if these go left and I have to spend money and time and maybe I look foolish and etc. And that sort of mitigates that. Well, I'm not getting complaints. Why should I change? It's when he's happy.
If you're not getting complaints, how do you know you're not getting passed up by someone down the block, though?
That's true. That is true. That is true. That's what got me to upgrade my edger years ago, because I was struggling trying to do some of those early wrap jobs with a whole lot of handwork and not succeeding. And then I said to myself, what if a person down the street with quote unquote less knowledge and experience as me ended up sending the job out to what was at the time Pesh Optical and having them produce a perfectly edged and satisfactorily made wrap? I said, what would I say if my customer saw those two options? I said, look, as much as my ego might hurt and say, well, I don't have the hand skill to make this work, I have to up my game.
Yeah, you got to be able to adapt. Got to be able to change.
Right.
And for our consumers that are in the market, this hasn't really been directed too much at you at this point, but
they like to listen.
They do, and I guess one of the big takeaways is make sure that you're working with people that are pushing the boundaries, and they may not always get it 100% right, but when they do, you might get that wow moment and not the whoa moment.
So my clients say that I know whatever it is, if it doesn't work as intended for you or for me, that you'll fix it. And that's the loyalty. They know that I'm going to step up to it. And there are times with repeat customers that I've had to refund because I couldn't do it at that juncture, what circumstance. Customer, they just decided that was the restaurant that had the one bad meal, but I'm not gonna trash them altogether.
Well, that's good.
I mean, that's a fair analogy, right?
It's a very fair analogy. There's lots of analogies we can apply to the optical industry.
My employee had the best sound when they come back and their height measurement on a multi. He goes, look, I'm low, and I have to remeasure and get this in the proper position. I go, why should I trust your measurement now? They said to him, and he goes, hey, just because Joe DiMaggio didn't get a hit every time at bat didn't make him one of the best hitters of all time. He would say you got to look at the percentages.
Yeah,
right.
It's true. Every once in a while, you're going to miss the ball, but most of the time, you're going to hit it.
Well, look, I don't think there's much else to say about the Zeiss. I know there's a lot else to say, but this wasn't supposed to be a commercial about it. They get to the nitty-gritty of the technical details, and they think correctly that the potential for this is wide because the largest single lens area of sales is single vision. And it's the most untapped in terms of getting a truly terrific optical product. And that includes good coatings. Because you know and I know that in the end, bad AR, you can put it on the best optical surface. It's going to be a crash and burn.
It is. Yeah. AR, and we've already had one AR discussion once before, but AR is key to the entire experience. Doesn't matter how great that progressive is, doesn't matter how great the initial vision is. If your AR flakes off in 6 months, you bet your bottom dollar they're mad.
Yeah, and you can't blame them, but you know.
No, I'm not saying I'm blaming them. I'm just saying that's the fact.
That same employee faced with that situation in 6 months, and the person would throw the glasses down and he goes, look at this coating, it's flaking off, and I paid $600 for these. He'd go, okay, relax. 3 words, even Mercedes break. And that would disarm the entire conversation.
Yeah.
Right?
Even Land Rovers are in the shop, right, Matt?
Oh, God.
Oh, piss off.
No, Land Rover, do you? Oh, my God.
I couldn't help myself. Anyway.
So
any more questions on this or for Barry in general?
I think I'm pretty good at this point. I'm going to have to harass my rep now a little bit and see what he can provide for me. I'm interested in looking at these white papers and seeing what if they're more fluff or if they've actually got some meat and potatoes to them.
Yeah, I'm definitely curious to see what comes out of it.
Within the that just like you queried the whole concept before you had seen it, some of them are having a little trouble understanding, getting to the root of the salient advantages of the lens. And so be kind to them, especially if they're not deeply versed in optics, because once you understand what Zeiss is trying to bring to market here, it's really quite clear. Now, if somebody's going to say, oh, this existed before and this and that, that's a different discussion, you know, but I'm not aware of it.
Yeah, it's interesting to see. As you mentioned, the single vision market's always the one that's been neglected. That's why I love to hound every rep that comes in for every lab. They're like, hey, we need you to use our lenses. I'm like, cool. What do you actually bring to the table in single vision? Because that's over half of what I'm fitting. What do you got for me that's really different and impressive?
Zach, you said it on the previous thing. Why is all the attention on progressives? I said, because that's where the fire is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
It's where the problems are. You're right.
Right. You know, but I focused on single vision. I started using freeform single vision very, very early on. And, you know, I use a lot of freeform single vision. I may not use as much now.
So I guess I have one last question then. This is a Barry question. What's your break point for freeform single vision? And I know there's multiple variables. I'm not saying I'm looking for a hard and fast rule, but if you look at something, you go, ooh, that's $2 a sill. Your best performance is going to be.
Oh no, it's never dollars. It's never dollars.
No, two diopters of sill. Sorry, I called it $2.
Oh.
Yeah.
So 2 diopters sill. Well, no, it isn't just optical for me, because if I decide that, and in this case, let's take a look at this. Zeiss is doing something wonderfully cosmetically by flattening the curves that they're made on. I may want a steeper curve than the frame than the lens was made on, because I want to fit that frame a particular way. You know, in some of those shadow box frames, I like putting what I call a TV screen inside of them, where the tube kind of bulges out a little bit to really show the depth of the frame a little bit better. So yeah, I'm playing with a lot of little different things. Do they matter? They matter to me. They ultimately matter. I guess it's the eye of the beholder.
That's true. That's fair.
Right? But you know what's nice about this, and your podcast is the spectacle factor of podcasts. That you guys have very defined opinions, you know, and that's what people are coming to you for. They don't want you to waffle. They want you to have an informed opinion. They want to hear the authority of your conviction and your belief. And that's what we as opticians do so poorly when it comes to styling people. That's what I realized. I've waffled too much in my entire life, you know, and you have to become more authoritative. That looks good. We don't like that. And if they don't want to agree, that's fine. But I think you'd be better off in all respects if you create that balance and speak about everything from a position of belief and authority. And they listen, their spidey sense, they know when you're BSing them and when you really believe it. Because to you, Matt, I've been with you, I guarantee you're passionate you do. Yes or no?
I think I understood that you broke up just a little bit there, Barry. At least
Your
on my end, you
customers
did.
say to you, I see you're very passionate about what you do.
Yeah, I get that. Absolutely. Yeah. I hear that from customers and clients.
Right. That's it. That's the two metrics you want, gold standard, that they recognize that you're all in on what you're doing. Right. And the other one is when they tell new clients that are in the store who are asking you the beginning questions, say, listen, I've been coming here a long time. I wouldn't think of going anywhere else. That's the gold standard. When they tell people, it doesn't matter if that store has more frames or different frames or lower prices or faster service. This is the place I choose to spend my dollars. And that's a hard-won recipe, right? And I think one of the things that you have to do, since it is about vision, is you have to stay on the cutting edge optically. I mean,
wholeheartedly agree with that.
Julia Gagosha, so I'm going to have to still play my optical thing.
Yes, no, I don't think any of us are Julia Gagosha.
Yeah, right.
Unbelievable amounts of respect to her. I've never talked to her, but I see what she does, and it's unbelievable. So,
Zach, do yourself a favor and get styled by her. Get styled by her. I did.
We'll see if it's in the budget this year.
Okay.
Matt, anything else you want to add? Otherwise, I think we've taken up quite a bit of Barry's time today. We should probably let him get back to work.
Yeah, it's fun.
I have so many things, but I'll save them for another. We'll have fun another time.
There's going to be presentations. Your Zeiss come in. There may even be local presentations. Get the full presentation, not the half-ass one that I'm doing. You know, and see, challenge yourself and see what you think. But I think
this is whetting the appetite, people. This is just to whet your appetite.
Right.
See what you think.
Okay, very good.
Well, thanks again, everyone, for attending another Fixing the Optical Problem. Again, I'm Zach Kastner, your resident optician. Got Matt Smith here and Barry. Barry, we can find, if we want more of your information, our best bet is to look at some of your published articles, which are in 2020. Correct me if I'm wrong.
If you Google Santini and the topic you're looking for, probably.
There we go. So if anyone's interested in more of what Barry's written, and I read quite a bit of it, he's a very, very talented writer, and he's got a lot of good things to say. I can't recommend it enough.
Thank you,
Matt. We can find you. Yeah, we can find you here on Fixing the Optical Problem and on your own YouTube channel, which is That Glasses Guy, and then also on your website, That Glasses Guy. And me, you can find at Shorewood Opticians. Thanks so much, everyone.
Appreciate it.
Man, I think